Welcome to the program. Well, it seems there's more happening within the Nigerian economy that is yet to be fully understood. The Nigerian Interbank Settlement Systems, or NIBSS, says transactions worth 204.5 trillion naira were performed electronically in Nigeria between January and July this year through the NIBSS Instant Payment platform. This shows a 40% increase in e-payments in the country when compared with 145.8 trillion naira recorded within the same period in 2021. This surge in electronic transactions shows that more Nigerians are embracing the cashless policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria. And also, the Central Bank of Nigeria says the country has recorded $2.4 billion in diaspora remittances through its Naira for Dollar scheme in just 2022. Zoemena Naji, who's the Director of Trade and Exchange Department of the CBN, disclosed this at the weekend. In March 2021, the Apex Bank introduced the policy which entails the payment of 5 naira for every $1 received as a remittance inflow. Well, to help us understand these issues, we are now being joined by a development and ICT expert, Olufemi Adeagbo, who is also the Managing Director of Comnavig ICT. So good to have you here, Femi.
Sambo, hi.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that's happening that is not fully understood. I mean, we've seen this volume of electronic transactions just between January to July this year, and the volume has gone up astronomically by 40%. Why are Nigerians embracing this cashless system more?
It's convenient, it's efficient, it allows you to move money at a pace which wasn't there before. It's also safer because you're not keeping cash at home in that sense. So yeah, the advantages of e-payments are, extensive. But I think the important thing, I think the real question you ask is the quantum of it.
Yeah, it's just so astronomical within 7 months.
Yes, we may have had these discussions in the past. Now, if you have an economy that is 80% or so informal, you really can't get a grasp of what Nigeria's GDP is. I believe Nigeria's GDP numbers have always been dramatically understated. Not because of deliberate, it's just the informal way in which we do things.
Which is not fully captured.
It's not fully captured. I can show you suya vendors who do 1 million naira a day. I can show you boli sellers by the roadside who do 50,000 naira a day. They are not even known to the economy, and they exist in quantum. And when we analyze our economy as well, we tend to forget that about 44% of that economy is under 15. So when we bandy this 200 million population, we need to understand that almost half of it is not even productive. So it's this productive half, or let's say about 56%, that are generating all this activity. So something doesn't add up. And the reason it doesn't add up is because the data is not captured. You mentioned beer.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Nigerians drinking beer just between January and June.
And that was 4 companies, by the way, because I think I read
just
the story.
4 companies, I mean.
If beer is taking up, and it's a good thing, because they're made in Nigeria brands, they employ people, Nigerian breweries employs people. Champion breweries have come out of loss into profit.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the great surprises.
Which is interesting. You may argue that, people drink when they are depressed and things are not, but we're still paying for it. As opposed to economies where when you're depressed, you put it on your credit card in that sense. If beer is costing that, I can tell you for free, Sambo, there was a Mintel report done in 2014, I think, the US Department of Agric and NBS. Our importation at that time was put at roughly $10 billion on liquor, champagne. And we're not blind.
Yeah, I remember then it was a huge conversation that Nigeria was importing foreign alcohol.
We should stop lying to ourselves. Everywhere it's Glenfiddich, Dom Perignon, but these are realities. So we can't keep seeing these realities and then in the same vein keep saying that nothing is happening economically. I think actually when people say that, and I've seen a few TV anchors say it, I'm sorry, not yourself, we don't make toothpick, we don't make anything. It's not true. You are actually demeaning and insulting Nigerians who are working very hard in factories, making things, the innocents of the walls, the pro forces, there are some young guys, they make agbalumo liquor in Ota, Dala. Amazing drink, amazing. It's made in Ota. World class. Toothpicks we actually do make. There's a company called Batten. I think they're in Ota as well. You know, but we make more sophisticated things. The cocoa exporters last year did over $690 million in exports. Fertilizer exports were almost $1 billion.
Yeah, I mean, that's also another one. The urea fertilizer export from Nigeria has kind of like gone up. I mean, I saw some of the figures released where Nigeria is exporting to countries as Brazil, US, and all of that. And I'm like, well, it looks like the non-oil economy is a factor. It's actually going up within the country.
I think the problem we have in Nigeria, really, is and it's a very serious problem. It's more serious than banditry and terrorism in my view. I think it's binarism. We see black or white. The entire spectrum, we don't see it. So if you dare say something is right about the Nigerian economy, instantly you are either APC or Buhari. If you say to that side that, oh, but you could have done this better or that better, you are Atiku, you are Obi, you know. So we have this, we've become so binary. We characterize very, very quickly. We ascribe labels to people. We ascribe labels to people when we should not, and you know, it's actually rendering our discourse shallow. So when you see analysts come on TV and talk, they are firing from a bunker. If it's not religious, it's ethnic, it's political, so you are not even looking at the data in front of you. And by not doing that, the moral construct of society, which has an important bearing on economic outcomes, are not being discussed. You know, and that's a big shame.
Now, let's look at this volume of e-payment transactions that we are having, and then some of, the systems that are being used. Do we say that, for example, the POS transactions play a huge role in this volume that we are seeing too? Because, I mean, banking has been brought very close to the poor, and so it remains a very swift means of doing transactions instead of paying through cash.
Absolutely. And I want to also make two additional points to that. Now, e-payment in itself, has also introduced some problems in that before you kept money at home for argument's sake. I want to use it in the context of security. How many armed robbery cases do you hear these days that some people went to somebody's house, locked down an estate and took money?
So the tendency is that they will almost find nothing, so except if they come with a POS though, because we've heard of that.
But how much can they do? So there was a time they would take the guy from his house to the ATM machine, but they could only withdraw so much. And then I think they started thinking, but we've kidnapped him already. You've seen a transition without realizing it from robbery to kidnapping. And when people saw that somebody like Evans was collecting $1 million and this kind of sums, it became an issue. And some of us told the policymakers that we need to factor in the security requirements because this is going to grow. Kidnapping is going to become very prominent because you can't guarantee that there's cash at home. That's one. Two, what exactly is being done with these transferred monies? I make no bones about it. A lot of people say it's behind the scenes, but they don't say it when they should. our illicit economy, sex, drugs, is massive.
Kidnapping, I mean,
no. Let's put kidnapping to one side. Pay for sex, runs, as they call it. And it has a serious problem. These are mothers of tomorrow. That sector is about a 10 trillion sector. Everybody's pretending it's not there.
Well, there's no one who has ever put a factor to that. I mean, that happens in every society. I don't know if there's any particular, maybe, well, in the Western world, yeah, they could actually try to factor those kind of...
the UK did.
But here, it's sort of very difficult for you to do that.
Sambo,
even just like, I mean, the kidnapping that we've been talking about, it's very difficult for you to
but the UK, a few years back, the UK took a look at it and thought, this economy is there. And it's contributing, whether you like it or not, it's spending within the same society. And they recomputed their sex, drugs, and alcohol industry, actually. I mean, they extrapolated. And they added 56 billion pounds to their GDP. Then Spain followed, Germany followed, Netherlands, because it's there.
There's a money going around.
We are in denial.
Within those circles.
What makes ours worse? And I'm not making a moral, I'm not moralizing, I'm talking economics. What makes us worse is that this layer have become an efficient transfer mechanism of wealth. So the money is collected in naira or whatever. Go and look at the China imports, and it goes to China. Here, in 2014, we imported $203 million worth of human hair.
That's the artificial hair that women use to plait their hair.
In that same year, we imported tractors to the tune of $213 million. So hair and tractors were pretty much the same thing. If you look at a country like Thailand, in that same year, for every dollar they spent on imported hair, they spent 50 on importing tractors. Who's going to produce more rice? I mean, this is logical. So we can't keep denying what stands in front of us daily. Let's leave the moral arguments aside, because we want to promote a narrative of nothing is happening, everything is dead. Dead economies do not spend 200 and how many trillion did you call it?
204.5 trillion. I mean, that's when in 6 to 7 months, that's money that's been used to make payments.
And don't forget, our culture is also a trickle-down culture. So even if you have only 1% with it starts trickling down. If the cement manufacturer is doing almost, Dangote is going to do about 1 trillion this year, I think, turnover, that means people are constructing. If construction is going on, look at the value chain. From the person supplying sand, granite, the casual worker, electrician, plumber, window, roofing, you're probably looking at about knock-on effect of about 20 other sectors. How many of the participants in those places are you capturing into your tax net? How many mechanics pay tax? Call your mechanic, and chances are I can't see you today. He's busy, round the clock. So how many of them are captured? So you may see Nigeria's truth on the expenditure side when you see the spending like this. But on the inflow side, maybe a bit difficult, because it's very, very
Let's look at this expenditure, for example, on alcohol consumption, about 599 billion naira just in the first 6 months. I mean, if you add up the remaining 6 months, and we know what usually happens within this period, I mean, that's the festive period and all of that, aren't we going to have maybe like a double of that? And then in the midst of all of this, what does this say about how we can help to reform our economic system? Because you are saying that several sectors, informal sectors, are now being captured. Now, how do we capture them to ensure that our GDP reflects the right state of the economy? And then, of course, if I may add the last one, sorry if I get you confused there, but it's very important. How do we ensure that the government helps to support some of these informal sectors that may be brought into the formal sector based on our analysis?
Well, if you don't have accurate data, it's a failing of government. End of story. There's an agency tasked with doing that, Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, and they need, I mean, the Dr. Kale and myself have at many fora have raised this point when he was teaching, and I look, it's just, you can't be presenting data on an economy that has so many behavioral nuances that don't exist in the countries that you use these standardized templates from. They don't have a culture of support or family support. They don't have a help me culture. They don't have a chance a happy weekend culture. All these things are trillions. I'm sorry. They really are, when you sit down and compute at a granular level.
Declaring.
Everybody plays dodgy. But so you can't dissociate our behavior from the way you're trying to capture data about us. Once you do that, you've moved away from reality. And you may have heard of a gentleman called Richard Taylor. Richard Taylor won the Nobel Prize for Economics in 2017. And what does Richard Taylor's work focus on? It focuses on how you factor irrational decisions of individuals, lack of self-control, excess, and all those other behavioral nuances into economic outcomes, because markets are not perfect as we expect them to be. So we probably need more behavioral scientists in Nigeria to help capture the data, to help understand what is actually going on. And in doing that, you can actually then make policies that are reflective. I can tell you for free, when you say 33% unemployment rate, it's not true. It cannot be true. Because every small, medium business I speak with, number one challenge, can't find people who want to work.
Well, it's the skilled people that they can't find to work.
We are no longer interested.
And you and I will agree that, I mean, sometimes they even go outside the country to bring foreigners from West Africa, Thailand, and all of that,
I have some amazing,
who are not skilled.
I have some amazing young people in the office, yes. And we can give skill. We are ready to give skill. It's attitude people are looking for. Nobody is after skill anymore. We've left that skill argument. We blame the failures of the education system on that. But I still come across amazing people, and some of them work for me. My GM are there in the office, who were products of this same educational system, but who have the right attitude. Maybe it's a family construct thing, maybe it's an upbringing thing. And I've also come across the most horrible people. So I don't think it's a single narrative. And I think that's part of our problems in Nigeria. The narrative is always single. We don't tend to look at things panoramically. You cannot. I sat with a friend last week. We interviewed 3 young ladies downstairs. And at the end of the conversation, he was in shock. Because these young ladies are telling us they need 2 million naira to get through each month. Oh, my hair, the salon, this, that. And he sat there in shock. When I say in shock.
These are the young Nigerians living in urban centers.
So, yes. But what those people sap away from the development resource base affects, that's why you can't, see the benefits of this, the economic activity trickle down. There's also the corruption factor, which we haven't dealt with. So we have a lot of behavioral issues. And rather than tackle them as behavioral issues so that we can understand what's really going on, we are quick to hide into a bunker and fire from it when that bunker suits a position we take. Okay. So we're not really looking at the issues truthfully.
Who are those that have been drinking this beer that we've just had 599 billion
Nigerians?
we seem or claim to be a very religious society and all of that, and just in 6 months, man, this is what we are seeing.
But we are hypocritical about most things. You and I know many people who are religious and who are well, not alcoholics, but who drink a hell of a lot. But you are not putting ogogoro. You are not adding all those other...
The local brew.
That's more than this. Because if you just...
And moreover, this is just for 4...
This is 4 companies.
Yeah.
this figure is lower than that Ogogoro, Paraga,
including palm wine and all of that. Because people are beginning to
bitters.
Actually manufacture.
Well, that's a good thing.
The bitters.
Anything that we can't make a moral. People drink. I enjoy a sip every now and then, but I only buy Agbalumo liquor. I'm sorry. If you visit me, I don't buy red. Serious. I buy made in Nigeria now.
Now, let's talk about what this kind of figures send. What sort of message is it sending to investors, people who have monies to invest? Does it show that the Nigerian economy can actually accommodate more investments in the midst of this, quote, cries of insecurity and all of that?
But they are rushing in. I mean, evidence is there. They are opening up as we are jackpine. That's the interesting thing. Farmland. The Indians, the Chinese, the Koreans, the Vietnamese, they are buying up our farmland because, well, we are saying that insecurity is not letting us exploit it fully in that sense. Well, but they are operating in the same environment. A lot of investment is coming into those sectors. And what does that tell me? They see the raw data. Yeah,
but there are some investments that are also being shut. I mean, there's this tomato paste factory in Kebbi State that had to be shut down. And some Dangote tried to get into that industry, and of course, it wasn't so successful in some other areas. What exactly can the government do to encourage more investment? Because if you're seeing these figures, I mean, as someone from outside the country, I would be tempted to want to pump some monies into this economy in one way or the other, especially when it has to do with e-commerce. And you can hear the government saying that, look, we're doing $13 billion US dollars at the moment, but in 2025, we are projecting $75 billion worth of transactions within the e-commerce sector.
Which is why InterSwitch, Flutterwave, Paystack, and many others have received investments from outside. So those investors were smart, right? Because you can imagine just a little bit of this quantum of transactions. Government needs to continue investing in security from a human viewpoint, equipment viewpoint, organizational viewpoint. But it is also unfair on those who are laying their lives on the line in the battle. Young people, by the way, young people, fighting unimaginable battles against hardened terrorists. You forget these terrorists took America and Russia air power to flush out of Syria. And a lot of them came into the Sahel. A lot of them are what we call ISIS here today, that our military is fighting alongside bandits and what have you. To keep making it sound as if the military and the security forces, the DSS, the police are doing nothing. Quite frankly, at times it's like spitting on the graves of people who have died.
Yeah, but of course, as the elections are coming,
be done.
Yes,
and
as the elections are coming, some of these sound bites may actually be used against people like you, and they say that, look, you're being pro-government. It looks like you're not affected by this in the midst of all this kidnapping.
Sambo, I have been shot at in Nigeria. I have scaled wall away from armed robbers. I have fought robbers physically with my, God bless her soul, my late sister-in-law who passed in May. My brother has been kidnapped before. My father has had to endure a 2-hour gun battle in Ibadan with armed robbers. All this was before 2015. So we have never really been safe. We should be safe so we can hold government's feet to fire and say, look, President Buhari, you promised us safety. We don't want to hear about what's happened in the past. We don't have it psychologically. It's a fair criticism.
Okay, but I will ask you to hold on now, because when we come back from the break, we'll be taking a look at setting an agenda for the presidential candidates as to what they can do to ensure that this volume keeps increasing, because we don't anticipate this volume to go down. We don't want a new government to come in place and then we're crying that this volume is going down. Well, you're still watching the Arise interview. More conversation with my guests here after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching the Arise interview, and I'm Somna Sambo. I still have with me in the studio discussing the positives in the Nigerian economy, Olufemi Adeagbo, a development and ICT expert and the managing director of Comnavig ICT. Now, let's go back to you, Femi, on this. I've seen some headlines that have also been tailored towards some of the things that we have been discussing. For example, one of the leading national business dailies, Business Day, have it on their headline saying that the Nigerian economy, has, shown some positive signs despite the global headwinds that we're having across. And then with what you have said and what figures we've seen released by the NIBSS and of course and all of that, is it time for us to rebase the economy like the Jonathan administration had done?
I think that rebasement, thank you, it's a good question. I think that rebasement was conservative. I looked at something when I was waiting to come in. It says our creative sector grew 0.11%. It can't be true. Netflix, Amazon Prime, it's Nigerian movies. It's an avalanche of Nigerian movies. Epics, short stories, and some have incredible. You saw King of Boys 2, I'm sure you've seen King of Thieves. Some are really, world-class standards almost. So, not to talk of what's going on in the music industry. They've literally conquered the world. Wizkid sat atop the US Billboard charts for a number of weeks. All these people come out of Nigeria. So we have always, like I said, undersized this economy because a lot of these things are difficult to capture. Don't forget, it's also our culture not to want to disclose things that can lead us towards paying tax.
Yeah, of course, especially the elites.
But we want good roads. We want, we want everything. I'm not exculpating government. Government over decades, in fact, since independence even, it's been complaint. We've tried everything. We've tried parliamentary, we've tried presidential, we've tried PhD holders, we've tried soldiers. So I think it comes to a point where you need to step back and say, all these leaders we criticize, where do they come from? Society. So there must be something wrong with our culture as a people. And when we fix it, then maybe we'll fix the broader issues of development.
I just want you to be on record. You think it's time for us to rebase the economy again?
I think so.
Okay, so as we head to the 2023 polls, what exactly do you think the presidential candidates need to focus on? We've heard the likes of Peter Obi saying that, look, we need more production, that consumption. Yes, we've seen Atiku Abubakar saying that, look, there's something that needs to be done about the Nigerian economy to ensure that it's expanded. We've seen Kwankwanso talking about opening the blue economy, the maritime sector, and it goes on and on, including Tinubu himself, who's talking about restructuring and all of that. Now, when you see a headline like this, Nigeria defies global headwinds with faster economic growth, GDP growth pleasantly surprising by Rwani's FDC, and then you see the election season that we're going into, with lots of rhetoric here and there, what will you say should be the agenda for the presidential candidates? How do you think we can set an agenda too for them as electorate to see how, for example, we can move our GDP from the current $500 billion to about $1 trillion economy? If we can.
What if you move the GDP to $1 trillion or $2 trillion? Yes, but a lot of it is exported because we like to be in the shopping malls across the world. We like to travel. We love foreign things more than we love our own things. It's Monday today. I was going to wear a suit when I was coming. I thought, no, I'll wear Ankara. What the heck? So it's not just about economic expansion. You have to tackle the behavioral issue. One.
Okay.
You also have to tackle what is the development agenda. For me, I want to see a Nigeria that's like 774 Singapores. Every local government should be world class by now. Good roads, dignified citizens, good environment, good schools, good, and these things are doable because we've done them in pockets for the elites. So it means it's actually doable. We need a discussion about what does development mean. Okay. It's not for the candidates to come and tell us, oh, Nigeria has failed, it's collapsing, I'll do this, I'll do that. Everybody says that every election cycle. What does development mean? I don't like hearing our poor. Don't we have any plans to make sure that to minimize the poor?
All right.
So these are the discussions I want us to have during the presidential cycle.
Yeah, in the few months ahead. But we must thank you indeed. Olufemi Adeagbo is a development consultant and ICT analyst. He's also the MD of Comnavig ICT Consultants. We must thank you immensely for helping us to understand some of these underground currents that are just going and flowing right there that, I mean, a lot of us don't take cognizance of. But of course,
Nigeria is not a failed state.
That's your summary.
Anybody who says that insults all of us who are working very hard.
All right. We must thank you so much for joining us.